ATP kind of recap. Monte Carlo, obviously, we talked about Carlos Alcaraz, and look, 21-4 now on the season. First Masters 1000 title in over a year, in first of 2025. And just like that, he's back up to world number two. I think a lot of tennis fans will be happy to see he's supplanted Alexander Zverev, who's had a pretty terrible 2025, especially since making that Australian Open final. And I know Yannick Sinner is not in the mix and not playing, but Alcaraz now first in the live race. So 1 week can make a big difference.
Yeah, and when's Sinner coming back? That's happening before the French Open,
Rome,
or
Rome. Yep.
so how, great will it be to have him back and see these two face each other? I mean, you want to see the top two players in the world go head to head, and to me, regardless of where Zverev was ranked, I mean, it's Sinner and Alcaraz to me for sure, given their body of work, and and you want to see the big guns go at it. It was like a couple of years ago when Alcaraz was really just emerging and Djokovic had a stranglehold on things, and you wanted to see them have those matches. And in the first 4 to 5 months of the year, I don't think they played each other at all. So it was later in that season that you started to see those fireworks between the two, the aging legend and the young up and coming player. So let's see these guys get back to it. Wouldn't that make a great French Open final if we could have Sinner and Alcaraz there? And we touched on it a little bit earlier in the episode, but to me, like, never a doubt about Alcaraz. I wasn't concerned in the slightest about him because still was managing things that most players would absolutely dream of being able to experience and have. And he's 21?
Hasn't even turned 22 yet. So,
Yeah.
and this is double digit titles now, by the way, 10 titles before the age of 22. And as you mentioned, 6 Masters 1000 level titles, which is pretty insane. Um, I did a little backlog research wondering like when did Rafa kind of secure 10 titles? And then I remembered he won 11 titles in 2005, which is
He was so
bonkers.
dominant that year. He was so off the
So
charts.
yeah, it was like particularly, I mean, he won his first French Open in 2005, but just won absolutely everything on clay that year. And then a couple other things. I think he won Montreal that year as well.
He
But
did. He beat Agassi in the finals in Montreal.
yeah, that's right. That's right. It makes me think just like clay court overall, though, you look at the men's game. Obviously, Rafa wasn't really relevant as a contender last year, but we had this block of time where it was sort of he's the man to beat, and it's kind of Rafa versus the field. Now it feels like the complexion of the clay court swing has changed in the men's game.
Yeah, and even after Rafa, like if for some reason he went out in a tournament before the finals or was missing a tournament due to injury, there was still Roger Federer, who is
Yes.
an incredible clay court player and never really probably got his full due on the surface because of the fact that Nadal was constantly besting him on clay. But players still had to deal with him as well. So we never really got to see beyond those two. And then Djokovic, of course, when he came along, but a lot of guys never really got to prove what they could do on the surface. And so now it is a little bit more up in the air as people are still jockeying for position in the post big three world. And we've only got one of those three guys still going. Um, we talked with Stephen Bowden, I think last week, about who to watch on clay. And he threw out the name Stefanos Tsitsipas, of course, who's been incredibly consistent on the surface as well. But yeah, as we're just getting going on, it's going to be a very interesting month leading up to a month and a half, really leading up to Roland Garros to see who's going to be in 2025.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting just touching on Tsitsipas. He was trying to defend his Monte Carlo title, didn't happen, loses in the quarterfinals to a fellow one-hander in Italian Lorenzo Musetti, who makes his first career Masters 1000 final. Kind of wilted in the final after winning the first set 6-3. Looks like he was having a number of physical issues, which was unfortunate. But that is another face just in the mix, and someone who plays their best tennis on clay. A handful of years ago took a couple opening sets off Novak Djokovic in a round of 16 match at the French Open before Novak did Novak things and stormed back and won. But Musetti, he's a player to watch. You're super high on Arthur Fils, I know, and how can you not be? He made the quarterfinals here, made the quarterfinals at both Indian Wells and Miami. Like, there are a lot of these big time young players who are making a push, and I think we're going to see a lot of new names and faces making quarters, semis, maybe a final of a slam.
It gets me really excited for, I know this isn't clay related, but it gets me really excited for the National Bank Open here in Toronto in August when we
Yeah.
get to see all of these players, and some of whom haven't had the chance to play in Toronto yet, or maybe they've made one appearance because they're so young and probably bowed out early 2 years ago. But yeah, those are some of the names that tennis fans want to see. Like when Shelton was here 2 years ago, there was a vibe, there was a buzz, and people could tell, like, hey, this is a kid who's gonna go on to do some things. Alcaraz obviously was here for the first time 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, the landscape on the ATP has certainly changed since the men were last here in Canada at our big event, and it's also going to be a nearly 2-week event this year too. So it gives tennis fans even more of an opportunity to enjoy the best players in the world in the men's game.
Yeah, it's going to be a change. You mentioned Toronto. Alejandro Tabilo is Chilean, plays under the Chilean flag, but he was born in Toronto. So if we can claim him, I'd love to. He gets his second career win over Novak Djokovic. They've only played twice, 2-0 now against Novak. There are only two other players to hold a 2-0 record against Novak Djokovic. I don't know if you could probably pull them out of your hat. It's pretty tough.
Gosh, Kyrgios, does he have
So Kyrgios is 2-1 because Novak beat him in the Wimbledon final. So funny enough, one of them is now the head coach of Andrei Rublev, Marat Safin.
Okay, that's good. Wow, that just shows you how long Djokovic has been around, eh?
Right? Yeah. So they would have played, a number of years ago. The other name is completely out of left field. Yuri Vesely has a 2-0 record against Novak Djokovic. But Alejandro Tabilo, Novak was out of sorts. But credit to Tabilo, he was 2-9 on the season going into that match and just took it to Djokovic. I like though Djokovic and Prestus asked, like, so what are your priorities moving forward? And he said Roland Garros. And then the reporter tried to ask a follow up. Just that's it. He just said, that's it. So, like, you see an early first round loss at Monte Carlo. Are we really going to write Novak off on the clay based on that?
No, and he's not going to care. And that's basically what he's saying when he tells you that he's prepping for the slam. That's what matters, right? He's going for number 25. And that would be such an impressive, result for him, for any tennis player, surpassing Margaret Court, for those of you that put any stock in her 24 Grand Slams. It's still a number that's out there, and
Yeah.
he could best it, right? So, and 25 is also, quarter of a century, like it's a cool number. It really stands out. It would get him, imagine if Roland Garros is his 25th slam and his 100th career title as well. That would be
That would
pretty
be
sweet
bonkers.
to have 25% of your career titles being majors.
That would be absolutely nuts. Couple other Canadians, both Denis Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime with early exits in Monte Carlo. Auger-Aliassime losing to a good clay court player in Daniel Altmaier. Shapovalov losing to Marcos Giron. I'm convinced these two are going to need a little time to adapt to the surface change. It's not their natural surface, even though we've seen results from them in the past. I do like the fact that both of them are actually playing this week at the Bavarian International event, a smaller ATP tournament, just to get the reps and get kind of the feel for the surface.
Yeah, maybe get a few more wins there than they would get if they were playing in Barcelona, I guess, against a deeper field.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, both of them, as you mentioned, have had moments of success on clay at the ATP level. Shapo making, was it a Masters 1000 final or semifinal in Madrid years ago?
Semifinal, I think, in Rome. Yep.
Okay, sorry, Rome maybe. And Felix, the first few finals of his career were on clay, if memory serves correctly,
And
on
Madrid
small.
final last year. So that's going to
Right.
be big time points
And they've
defense,
both,
but still.
and they've started 2025 playing some pretty decent tennis overall. It's never as consistent as we'd love to see, as Canadian tennis fans would love to see it happen week in and week out. But I think Shapovalov in particular seemed to have found a little bit more of a consistent output and a little bit more maturity on the court too, which I think is, we've said it for a long time, is maybe the missing thing for him to consistently reestablish himself as a top 20, top 30 player in the men's game.
Thank you guys so much for watching us at Matchpoint Canada. If you like our work, follow along, hit the subscribe button below.